So after a little bit of a slower episode last week, this episode of Yellowjackets was really amazing. I enjoyed a lot of it, and by enjoyed, I mean it was thrilling and tense and scary, and I found myself very upset a lot of the time, because when this show is doing its job and being very, very good, it is awful and horrible, and I'm sad, and I'm like, spending any single second of time, any minuscule amount of time in that cabin, dropping piss on the floor, just sitting there cold and just bored and just very, very hungry, just seems like the worst thing that could possibly happen. This episode really brought home for me that there are three things in this world that I find so scary and upsetting and horrible, and that is the idea of starving to death. I love food, I love eating, never want to starve to death. And then there's boredom. I hate being bored, it's so boring. And then of course the third most terrifying and awful thing in this world that I despise above all else is shown in the scene where we find out what Frodo Baggins does in his spare time. Horribly, unnecessarily long and complicated jigsaw puzzles. I hate jigsaw puzzles. I just suddenly realized, we'll get to the review, I have so much to say, but I do need to address the fact that I did just imply that I hate jigsaw puzzles more than things that actually are bad, like racism and stuff. To be clear, racism and jigsaw puzzles, I mean, they're close. They're very close with how much I dislike them. But obviously racism is worse, obviously. And just all the isms, just put all the isms down there, and then just above on the dislike thing, jigsaws. But damn, I hate them. I don't like, I'm not trying to throw shade to anyone who likes jigsaw puzzles. Each to their own, we all have our own interests. But oh my god, they're just so frustrating. You're just like, someone's like, just find the corners and go from there. Where are the corners? I don't want to do this. Oh, it's like torture. It's like actual torture. Obviously, if you're like, would you rather get tortured or a jigsaw? I'm doing the jigsaw, but I'm just not going to have fun doing it. And I would just rather not, you know. I'm just not a big jigsaw puzzle guy. Hey guys, I'm Jax, and this is my spoiler review for Yellowjackets episode 8 of season 2. If you've somehow got past whatever that rant was that apparently I needed to get off my chest, I would love if you could give me a like, subscribe, and bloody comment below. What do you think about this episode? Be careful what you wish for, Jax, because I have been continuously saying I want them to be hungrier. I want them to get to the cannibalism. I want them to hunt each other and do all the horrible, gross, awful things to make me be like, ooh, do I even like these characters? They are cannibals after all. And then the episode ended and I was like, wait, now they're actually doing what I wanted, and I hate them all, and they disgust me, and I left the episode feeling really upset and sick, and I was like, oh, that's right, what I wanted was for them to all become monsters and eat each other and value food in their bellies over their friends and human life. And why did I want this to happen? Why did I want to push these characters in this direction? Because that's the show I'm watching. But as it happened, I went, I was so angry at all of them. I'm like, I hope they don't get to, I hope he falls into the ice and they don't get him. Like, that's what they deserve. But they got him out. Which I also, I don't, how did that happen? Maybe I just don't understand physics or water or icy water, but like he drowns and like he's freezing and he drowns and then he like bobs back up. And then he falls back in again. I don't know how he bobbed up dead. It was, I guess, just to show them that he had died. Then he falls back under, and there is a pause. And then they're like, oh, you better grab him so we can eat him. And they managed to grab him, but I feel like time-wise, he would have sunk, and no one had to, like, dive in. Like, it would have been amazing if, like, Misty had dived in, and there was just, like a line, like a clown's cloth line, you know, the different colors that keep coming out, and they're just like connected, and they're all holding on as Misty's like floating under the water to grab him, and it's like teamwork to eat the defenseless child. Yay! It's one of those funny moments where as I'm watching it, to me, he drowns and then he floats back up and bobs back up and then he floats back down again, and all I keep thinking is that how a dead frozen boy would act in water? Wouldn't he just sink and keep sinking? Why'd he bob up and why'd he sink so slowly again? Like, it all didn't make sense to me. But then I do remember, like, every time something like this happens, like some kind of thing where I'm like, if I knew about things, I might know. But as an idiot who has no knowledge of what a frozen dead body would act like in ice and in frozen waters, I just don't know if it's realistic or not. And then I also remember it's a show, so like, even if it feels realistic, it could be completely absurd and not realistic, and they're just gonna do it anyway, because it's a TV show. So I don't know, the show is so self-serious though, and it's very like light on humor, and the tone is very dark and somber. So these scenes, like, that's where my mind keeps going. I feel like I want it to be very realistic, even though all the characters, like, in the present day are like, there's an evil entity that's making us bad people. I'm starting to think, Lottie, maybe you're just a bad person. Let's put a pin on Harvey for a moment, and let's discuss Lottie, because present day adult Lottie has completely lost her mind the entire season. Every time I mention her cult that she says isn't a cult, but is definitely a cult, I kept being like, it's not really doing anything for me, and the longer we spend there, I'm more like, oh, okay. But this episode, it was crazy. Lottie essentially goes full cult leader and is like, I've got some water, but one of them's poison. Let's all have shots. What? It's such an oddly self-sabotagey kind of crazy she's got going on, and I guess it stemmed from what they've started doing in the flashbacks, in the Crash timeline, where instead of, I guess, turning on each other, they just kind of pick, like, at random who's gonna be eaten next. They do a card situation, which was really chilling and upsetting. But also, as I said last week, the stakes are not as high as I think maybe the show thinks they are with certain scenes. Like, it's like, who's gonna pull the card and die? And it keeps cutting to characters who I know can't die, so I'm like, well, not them. So whilst the scene itself is like really upsetting and creepy just because they've all decided as a group to do this, and that itself is really terrifying, I am still stuck with that, like, oh, like, the person who picks the card is like someone who can't die. So the whole scene, I'm just like, alright, well, what's happening next? Presumably her boyfriend will step in. Oh, he stepped in, yeah, cool, alright. And now and then once they start chasing her, I'm like, alright, but they can't catch her, so what happens next? And then Harvey's like, hey, I talk now. Come with me. There's a cave. Yeah, I was just in a cave eating chicken wings. Coach finds the cave, and it looks like when he sees it, it just looks like a bunch of chicken wings on the ground. Like, that just looks like my living room after I've had a bunch of mates over and watching the footy. Like, I wake up in the morning hungover and I'm like cleaning up, and there's just a bunch of KFC. For some reason, it's on the ground and not on the table. In a lot of ways, Harvey kind of deserves to die. He was clearly holding out on some kind of delicious chicken wings. Maybe he even had some kind of hot sauce as well. Maybe he did deserve to die in the most horrific way. Like, as soon as that ice cracked, I'm like, oh no, not like the moose. Not like the moose. That's the worst way to go. Like, falling. It's really, really upsetting. So that, as a moment, super chilling. But, as I said, he was holding out on some delicious chicken wings in a cave. So that sumbitch deserves to die. I wonder, will he taste better because he had all that delicious chicken wings? Like, will they be able to taste that? They'll, like, eat him and be like, ugh, that tastes delicious. And then one of them will probably be like, he kind of tastes like chicken. And then another one will be like, shut up, we are too hungry for jokes. But actually, now you say that, now I think about it, he does taste like chicken. That is weird. So this week, we really start to focus on the hunger of the girls in this cabin. And some of the scenes presenting how hungry everyone is really interesting and captivating. The moment that the pet rat was just this husking, fleshy, skinny corpse thing just made my skin crawl. I was so horrified. And then some of the other representations of hunger are not as clever or inspired or horrifying. Like one girl, like that really annoying girl, she looks at a wall and like blood drips from the wall and it's like, ooh, spooky horror movie. Not a fan, to be honest. Didn't really feel like that made any sense, and just they were just like, we gotta put some blood in there or something. Oh, gore. That'll scare people. So as the series has progressed, I've always presumed that when they went full cannibal and they were deciding who to eat and all that kind of stuff, that would be a bit more kind of like two tribes against each other and they'd be picking each other off, or I don't know, something like that, or they'd all kind of gang up on one person in a really petty kind of childish way. Like they'd all just start bullying one person and then they kind of turn on her or turn on him if it's Coach, or kind of just being like everyone kind of mentally agreeing it's this one person, and it'd be kind of this group mentality where the strongest kind of commands the others. I guess it's kind of like free for all, like everyone's got a fair chance, but something about it just felt so off to me. I don't know why. Maybe it was just how I was meant to feel in that scene, the way it was so upsettingly creepy, and it was all just kind of like decided upon in this moment. It just, I don't know, something about it was really, really upsetting. I guess that's the intent. Like, I'm not meant to be like, yay, cannibalism. I'm meant to be like, ooh, oh no, cannibalism. You know what it is? I think that, I don't know what can't happen because she's alive in the future, but I think Shauna deserves to die. And I know, she just lost her baby. Very sad. But she almost killed Lottie, our cult leader, our magical witch doctor lady. Let's just for a moment pretend we are there and we are indoctrinated with the group and we love Lottie and we're praying to the wilderness and we're like, ooh, Lottie can't die because the wilderness will not allow it. Yeah, we've gone crazy. We've lost our minds. I just feel like even if Lottie was like, punch me instead of, I don't know, we could probably make a punching bag. We could probably build a punching bag, or you could just punch the wall. I reckon if you punch the wall for like half a minute, you're going to be like, I am angry, but my hand actually hurts quite a lot because of the wood I've punched. So, and you just stop punching rather than she essentially killed Lottie. Lottie is like within an inch of her life. She looks so messed up. But I really feel like if we're all picking one person to be eaten, it's Shauna, right? I mean, I know she just lost the baby. I know. But she tried to kill Lottie. But then again, I guess none of them tried to stop her. And Lottie, offered herself up like a sacrificial lamb. I don't know. That all just feels really weird. And the fact that it kind of plays into so much of this episode, I don't know. Yeah, just starting to really not like Shauna. And I know. She lost her baby. So she's right to be mad. I'm not saying she's not right to be mad. I'd be mad too. I'd be real mad. I don't know if it would be acceptable for me to beat someone to death. That's all. Especially when they're the cult leader and magical or whatever. I don't know. I feel like I just don't like Shauna anymore. And I don't know when that happened. It happened at some point. It wasn't the punching. I just feel like that was like a straw on the camel's back, where it was like a revelation. It was like I'd felt this way, and then suddenly I'm like, oh yeah, actually no, I don't like her anymore. But also I don't know who I like at this point. It's such a weird show where it's like it's doing what a HBO show does, where every single person is unlikable, but somehow because they're all just in the same situation and there's no real difference in some of them are more religious than others, and that's kind of it. But apart from that, they're all in the same situation, so there's no kind of heroes among the villains. In so many of HBO shows, they'll be all monsters in their own way, but depending on the scene, they've all got kind of different motives, so you can kind of pick and choose who's the hero and villain of a scene, even if they are both technically villains. In this show, it just kind of feels like they all suck, they're all the worst, and why do I care who survives? Also, I know who survives, so it's just yeah, I don't know. It's a weird... And I'm not saying I don't like the show. I found this episode very captivating. But there are just things now that the show's getting to a certain point where I just kind of keep thinking about. And I don't know how... they can't address it. They can't make me feel stakes in a scene when I know that person's surviving. So, they're chasing bloody... What's-her-face? Nat through the forest. And they're all like... Ah! And I'm like, oh, full cannibalism, tribe ladies, and they're running. And it's a good scene, although the song choice. What is up with this show and just picking the worst songs? Why is a song playing? A rock song. The world is a vampire. And it's what? What was that song choice? It's so... bad. It's just a terrible song choice. It makes just any song though, really, any song in that moment. The music should be orchestral strings or that really upsetting kind of not like that. That was bad. I will admit that was bad. But that really upsetting choir music and that kind of I don't know, those weird kind of vocal kind of just shrieks, and you know what I'm saying. I can't do it, but it's they've had some really great kind of unique sounding music and scores, and just to play a rock song in this moment feels who's editing this? Do they realize that these ladies want to kill this? It baffles me. And also on top of that, they don't catch her. I know they don't catch her, and even if they catch her, she doesn't die. So it's it's so... I don't know how they escape this issue that I'm finding every time something happens now. I don't know how they do it. Also, if you somehow managed to make it to this part of the episode, bloody comment below. What do you think about jigsaw puzzles? Don't take this as some kind of insecure plea for you to agree with me. But they suck, right? They suck, right?